The task of building a roadmap for an initiative, be it a product, a service, or a change, can oftentimes be a daunting one. Regardless of whether you are the product owner of the next big bet your organization is making, or whether you're planning on redoing the living room in your house, at the start of such initiatives, we typically go through similar steps. After the initial idea, we get excited about all the possibilities. Oh, I'm going to revolutionize the market's entire perception of this organization. Or maybe, our living room will finally be worthy of Architectural Digest. We then proceed to a brainstorming and ideating phase, where we try to capture all those ideas. Here we're high on endorphins as we let our creative juices flow. Unsure where to start, however, we then proceed to spend 2 to 3 months documenting all the ideas, ambitions, and goals we have in a massive document that unfortunately few will ever read. Next, something like a creative hangover sets in, and we feel overwhelmed by everything we want to do. We are unsure how to proceed. So we seek assurances from detailed plans and excessive analysis that create the illusion we know what we have to do. Except that after going through the monotony of long delivery cycles and continuously playing catch up to the plan and reality, the inevitable bomb explodes as the delivery date approaches. Nothing is working. So then we push ourselves to the limit, somehow deliver something, and the ultimate result is, meh. Did the users enjoy it? Meh. Did we achieve our goals? Meh. Stop. It doesn't have to be like this. There is a better way. The approach being followed by many of the leading product organizations nowadays can be loosely described as agile product development. While this is a huge topic in itself, we can highlight here some of the principles it builds on. Things such as focus on customer value as the driver, iterative and incremental development, continuous learning and improvement, and constant prioritization. Such an approach values short delivery cycles that accelerate learning and value delivery. Now, when using such an approach, a very useful tool to help agile product owners do their job is called a user story map. This technique was created by Jeff Patton and consists on reimagining the one-dimensional product backlog. Traditionally, product backlogs have one dimension, priority. The trouble is the reality is not so simple. We need context to prioritize effectively, and a long list is not necessarily helping with that. A user story map will display the product backlog in 2 dimensions, priority and the journey of the user. That second dimension enables us to see the backlog in a much clearer light by providing us with context. We now have the full picture and we can start generating some insights and taking some decisions. Making the context clear also helps with prioritization. Now, to build out that second dimension, we step away from requirements for a second. Forget about what you think you need to build. Put yourself in the user's shoes and think about their journey or narrative as they use your product. Normally, you should map out, first, the main steps in the user journey. Let's call these activities. Secondly, the user's narrative as they use the product or service. So for each activity, think about the different actions, steps, or decisions a user must take. Once you have this structure set up, you can organize your backlog items first by finding in which narrative step they belong, and then you can start prioritizing. By doing so, while having a view of the user journey, you can ensure that your prioritization enables you to deliver some value very quickly to your users. With the user story map, that same brainstorming output that overwhelmed us in the classic scenario we described previously can be much more easily organized. Our entire product backlog is visible within the context of the user journey and value delivery. Let's go through an example. Okay, so the idea here is we're going to be trying to create our perfect morning routine. Meaning, what would be all the things that you would like to do before you leave the house to have to go to work? So, to build this exercise out and make it a little bit more interesting, what we did is we asked people in the office to tell us, hey, what do you do before you leave the house to go to work? What are all the activities or the things you have to do or that you would like to do in the morning? And we got a lot of information, a lot of different ideas, suggestions, or habits that people have. So the first thing we're going to do is collect all that information in some kind of brainstorming session and put it all up here on the wall. Similarly to what you would do in a project when you're trying to think about the different features or capabilities that you would like to add to your product. Okay? So let's get started. Let's take a look at what people are saying they do. Well, wake up. That's one thing we definitely have to do in the morning. I have to pick my clothes. What clothes would I like to wear? I need to wash my hair. Take a bath. Really? A bath? Not a shower? All right. Well, not take a shower. Here you go. There's another option we would have there. I would like to do some gardening. Seriously? Somebody does gardening in the morning before they leave the house? That's a joke, right? Like, who wrote this? I must be doing something wrong. All right, gardening. Okay, now, if we take a look at everything we have over here on the wall, it's quite daunting, right? This is a little bit how it feels like in the beginning of that cycle when you're trying to think and build out that product or that service. Everybody has an idea, and everybody says we should do all these things to make this product great. And when you finish that brainstorming session and you look at this, of course you're going to feel overwhelmed. Like, look at all this stuff to do. Like, where do I even start? How do I organize this? Well, if we're using a user story map, the first thing we would try to do is, after this initial brainstorm session, maybe have a think about, do we have some groupings over here? Do we have some things that naturally belong together? And maybe we can start to form like some big groups. Okay, so after we organize a little bit and we start to do some groupings, we can start to identify that there are maybe some high-level activities that we're doing. If we start thinking about our morning routine, well, this is the big, first there's like a big wake-up procedure, which maybe well, let's be honest, I snooze a couple of times, then I'll check my phone, see if my partner's still sleeping. We can group all that under the wake-up activities. And then there's stuff like, once I leave the bedroom, I might have to take a shower or brush my teeth or wake up the kids, things like that. Then I'm gonna have another group over here, like I see, do some exercise or listen to some music, prepare breakfast, the basic morning activities, actually getting some stuff done. And then over here in the end, we have some stuff about like leaving the house, right? So I need to maybe check the traffic, feed the cat, take out the garbage, that kind of stuff. So we can start to put some titles here. We can say, well, maybe this first activity we have over here, we'll call it like wake up, right? And there's some things we do under that wake up activity. Then we have still in the bedroom. So while I'm still in the bedroom, maybe there's some other things that I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna have some morning activities, right? So things I'm doing during the morning part, and then I have like the big leaving the house thing. So I can see here I have 4 like major groups of activities of what I'm doing during my morning routine, of what we are doing during our morning routines. Okay, this helps to start make a little bit more sense. I feel a little bit less overwhelmed than I did when I saw just all those post-its all over the place, but I still don't have enough information here to start really deciding what do I want to do, or what would I like to do, or what don't I want to do. So maybe we need to go a step deeper and start pulling on that thread a little bit more and understanding, okay, what's the narrative here? Like, what's actually my story when I'm getting up in the morning? Like, let's take a stab at that. We start to understand a little bit better how things are working. For example, before we had identified these activities, wake up, still in the bedroom, morning activities. But now that we've structured things a little bit more down here, we see that some of these don't perfectly fit anymore. Like, so for wake up and still in the bedroom, basically, these 2 columns are both in that scenario, right? They're covering the scenario of I just woke up where I'm still in the bedroom. So we can probably only keep one of these. And I'm gonna keep my still in the bedroom activity. So the first thing we have here is still in the bedroom. Then we have some general morning activities, and those start somewhere over here in this column. And we have things like, showering and going to the toilet and doing some maybe facial grooming. And then over here at the end, we have our leaving activity, our big leaving activity. That's leaving the house. We need to check the traffic, drop the kids off at school, that kind of stuff. Okay, so now we can start to think a little bit better about, how do we define those little steps in the narrative on these columns we have identified over here. So we can start off with, okay, first I'm still in bed, right? So this is things like, I need to wake up, maybe I hit the snooze button, then I kiss my partner. Then we have some stuff about getting out of bed. Okay, and this would be like putting on the pants, opening the windows. Then have a column here about personal hygiene, where we have things like showering, washing hair, brushing my teeth. Then now you see the structure we have here. This would be a classic user story mapping structure, and you see the structure of our morning routine now. So all the different things we might do in this structured in this narrative format. So you have like time sort of a bit flowing in that direction, okay? Once we have this set up, it becomes much easier for us to start thinking about, okay, what now are the most important things to do? What do I need to do first? What can I take out of my morning routine if I want to sleep a little bit more? And we can start thinking about those things. So one of the things we can observe in the user story map is that horizontal lines across the story map represent an iteration. An iteration is an experiment, an attempt to accomplish something. Some people like to call the first few iterations of a product their minimum viable product, or MVP, which is going to be a rough first attempt at delivering value. Now, besides delivering value to users, the other purpose of the iteration is to learn. Are the users happy? Are we on the right track? Can we improve? And we also see that the priority dimension is correlated with time from a delivery perspective. The further down the story map a backlog item is, the later it will get delivered. At the same time, the backlog items that are part of an iteration make up our increment, that is, what we actually deliver or accomplish during the iteration. For a banking mobile app, that MVP could be the ability to check your balance. For a marketing team working on a new campaign, it could be the storyboard with their idea for the next TV advertisement. Now, let's see how this would work in our example. So let's take the example now from Jeff Patton, where he talks about, well, imagine you have the most important meeting in your life, and it just happens to be the same day that you miss your alarm clock. When you get up, you look at your watch, you have 15 minutes to get out of the house. Oh my God, how are we going to do this? Well, what you're going to have to do is to start prioritizing. And you already see how this structure is going to help us prioritize, because I can first start thinking about, well, in these steps in the narrative, what are things that are going to be more important or not? And within those steps, what are the tasks I have to do that maybe I can prioritize up or move down and skip altogether? So if we start playing that game and start trying to move down everything we don't really need to do and try to come up with like, okay, what's the 15-minute morning routine? The morning routine where I miss my alarm clock, I have to get out of the house in 15 minutes, how could I do it? Well, let's take a look. Okay, so you can see what we have here now is we have sort of a prioritized set of minimum tasks that we need to do before we can get out of the house, so we can make it in 15 minutes and still make it to that important meeting. So what do I have here? Well, I need to wake up, personal hygiene. Yeah, you see a lot of stuff is getting sacrificed over here. We still have time at least to put some mouthwash, so at least we don't have bad breath when we go to work. Go to the toilet. I wish we could delay that, but you gotta go, you gotta go. Facial grooming, that's completely de-scoped. Clothes, just get dressed. Whatever clothes you can put on, don't worry about picking clothes or making them look too nice. Just grab the first decent looking thing you have and put that on, okay? Fitness, that's getting deprioritized for sure. No food, no coffee. We can grab a coffee once we get to the office. All those nice tasks we do at home before we leave, like take out the garbage, or check my phone, check my work calendar, plan my day, all that kind of stuff, gone. Don't have time for that. And just go to work. Now, if I look here, there are quite a few gaps, right? And one of the things that got deprioritized was the whole thing of waking up the kids, driving them to school, preparing their lunch box, all this kind of stuff. So I need to create a new task over here because this has to be delegated. She might not be happy, but it's a solution. I can just say, hey, sorry, I'm late. I really need to go. So the only task I'm doing today is I'm going to tell my partner, sorry, today you got the kids in the morning. I have to run. And you see all the stuff that we moved down over here, and we have just a minimum set of tasks up here. That's what we would call like our first release, maybe our minimum viable product for our perfect morning routine. Like at least this we need to do to be able to get out of the house, okay? So we can go ahead and highlight this maybe by saying, okay, that'll be the 15-minute routine to get out of the house. And that's the first experiment we can do. And we can start with that, and from that experiment we can start to learn. Is that enough? Did people complain I was smelling badly at work because I didn't take a shower? What about my teeth? Like long-term sustainability of my teeth. If every day I'm just using mouthwash and not brushing my teeth, maybe I'm gonna have a problem there. What about my partner? I can't just every day tell my partner, hey, you got the kids, good luck, see you. At some point in time, I also have to help out around the house and the garbage and all those other things. So, but it's okay. This is our first experiment at a morning routine and we can see how it goes, okay? We can learn from that. That's very important. So once we do that, then we can start thinking, okay, what would we like to add to this morning to make it a little bit better, right? All right, so let's take a look at what this second round of prioritization looked like, right? As we're trying to improve our morning routine or create our perfect morning routine. So one of the things is that we're adding here is wake up the kids, okay? So I can't just tell my partner, hey, you do everything. So I'll go and wake up the kids. Also, we're gonna do something about personal hygiene, right? That experiment of not taking a shower, not brushing my teeth, a little risky. So we're adding a shower and brushing my teeth to our morning routine. Facial grooming, still out of scope, not doing that right now. For the clothes, we'd like to look a little bit better at work, so at least let's make sure that our shirts and our pants match, that we're not wearing the same thing we did yesterday, right? So we're gonna be picking some clothes. Fitness, still not priority enough. For foods, okay, we're not gonna be having a fancy breakfast, but at least I'm gonna prepare some coffee and put on the radio so I can listen to some news in the background, okay? And for the getting to work part, there's one more thing I've added there is, okay, I'll drop off the kids at school also. So at least I can start to share the load with my partner. My partner is still gonna be doing a lot with the kids, right? Because all I'm doing is waking them up and dropping them off at school. But at least we start to share the load. And we could say, okay, this is our second experiment with the perfect morning routine. Let's try this and see how it goes. Let's try to figure out like how long does this take actually? Maybe this is taking an extra 20 minutes. Okay, so now I have to get up 35 minutes before I have to leave the house. So this is maybe an extra 20 minutes and allowing us to do a little bit more things. And I can keep going with that same process and say, okay, what would I like to add on next? And you start to see those dynamics that are so important for product development or product prioritization, right? When we're trying to plan all the things we need to build for our products. For example, it would be nice to do all these things that are here. Like I would love it if every morning I could stretch, meditate, do some yoga, gardening, read the newspaper, spend time with my kids. But at the same time, I don't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? That's just not going to work for me. So you need to make some trade-offs and you need to start learning to see, okay, what do I really like in the morning? What's really enjoyable? The theory of gardening might be really, really nice, but when I actually have to get on and put my gardening gloves and go outside, and maybe the weather's not the best, and maybe it's just making me miserable, right? So one of the things we start to see is we start to do these experiments, these iterations. That's what these lines represent here. We build something of value, a minimum morning routine, and then we try it out. That experiment of trying it out enables us to learn something. And that learning, we can now inject into the next experiment. Okay, how does that affect my priorities? And this structure then is showing me two things. It's showing me the experience I'm gonna have in my morning, what are the different things that I'm gonna be doing, what am I not going to be doing in my morning, but it's also telling me the importance of things. Things here at the top are very important. I have to do these things before I get out of the house, no choice. Things here at the bottom maybe are not so important. If I have time, if I can go to work later today, or if for whatever reason I'm up at 6 o'clock in the morning, great, then I have some additional time that I can do these things. But it gives me a clear understanding of what's the most important thing for my morning routine. And the other thing to keep in mind is every line we have here, every horizontal slice we're taking of this user story map is an experiment we're doing. It means we're delivering some value to our users or to our morning routine, and we're learning from that. Another thing we can see come up are alternatives to accomplish a specific task. In our morning routine example, I had alternatives on how to clean myself. I could take a shower or a bath. I chose shower because it's quicker, but I could later decide to switch that to a bath. Thinking about alternative ways to accomplish a task gives product owners options, enabling them to save time on things that need to be there but are maybe not the core of the value delivered. Finally, the user story map can also help in identifying gaps, areas that we are currently not focusing on. This might be for a good reason, or it might be because we forgot about it. In either scenario, the user story map helps us see these gaps. One of the reasons this tool has become so popular with agile teams is also that it is incredibly flexible. Take, for example, a non-product team, which is what I would call a team that doesn't have one clear user product or service they are focusing on. Imagine, for example, an HR team. They might be involved in a couple of projects, while they also must handle some generic admin tasks, offer support to line managers, and so forth. Such a team can't really build one user journey, but they can still benefit from a two-dimensional product backlog. They will simply use the horizontal dimension to represent the different intake channels for work. That way, they can prioritize the incoming work per channel first, and then across channels to generate their prioritized product backlog. A good reference for further reading on this topic is the book written by Jeff Patton himself that is creatively titled User Story Mapping. In the meantime, try using the user story mapping tool with your team and start practicing those agile product ownership instincts of understanding context, prioritizing, and delivering value.